네, 셰인 함과 함께하는 Headlines. 11월 28일 Morning Headlines. Let's start off the show with Shane.
Economic and financial experts say Korea could face a financial systemic crisis within a year, amid concerns that rising borrowing costs could weigh on businesses and households.
금리 인상이 기업과 가게에 부담을 줄 수 있다는 우려 속에 국내외 경제 및 금융 전문가들은 1년 안에 금융 시스템 위기가 닥칠 가능성이 있다고 진단했습니다.
Taiwan's President Tsai Ing-wen has resigned as head of the ruling Democratic People's Party after it suffered a resounding defeat in several key mayoral races.
대만 집권당인 민주진보당이 지방선거 일부 중요 지역에서 참패하자 차이 잉원 대만 총통이 당 주석직을 사임했습니다.
Elon Musk has said he would support Donald Trump's arch-rival, Ron DeSantis, in 2024 if the Florida governor were to run for president.
테슬라 최고 경영자 일론 머스크는 도널드 트럼프의 최대 라이벌인 론 디산티스 플로리다 주지사가 대선에 출마할 경우 그를 지지하겠다는 의사를 밝혔습니다.
Member states of the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora, or CITES, have agreed to establish new or revised trade regulations on more than 600 animal and plant species.
멸종위기에 처한 야생 동식물종의 국제거래에 관한 협약, 일명 사이테스의 당사국들이 600종 이상의 동식물종을 멸종위기종으로 등재하는 데 합의했습니다.
And Korea's Cultural Heritage Administration has announced that Samguk Yusa, Nebang Kasa, and records related to overcoming the 2007 Taean oil spill have been listed on the UNESCO Memory of the World's Asia-Pacific program.
문화재청은 삼국유사와 내방가사, 태안 유류 피해 극복 기록물이 유네스코 세계기록유산의 아시아태평양 지역 목록으로 최종 등재되었음을 알렸습니다. And those are today's headlines.
Morning Headline Expressions.
From the headlines today, let's do a recap on some of the main expressions. The first one was to weigh on something.
Right. So, for example, rising borrowing costs could weigh on businesses and households. So they put a lot of pressure on these businesses because interest rates are rising.
They act as a burden, a weight.
Right. So, if the pressure of your parents weigh on you to, do well on a test, for example. That's a lot of pressure.
That sounds like a lot of pressure. 자, weigh on 누구누구 이렇게 보통 많이 씁니다. 누군가에게 부담이 되다, 짐이 되다 이런 느낌이고요. What's a resounding defeat or resounding victory?
Yeah, we said something that's convincing or overwhelming. So we learned today that the Democratic People's Party in Taiwan suffered a resounding defeat in several key mayoral races, right?
Yeah, they only won 5 out of 21 seats up for grabs. So that was a big defeat, wasn't it?
Yeah.
아주 크게 패한 그런 모습, 참패. 그리고 resounding defeat라고 표현할 수 있습니다. Now, the next expression was arch-rival.
Right? So Elon Musk had said he would support Donald Trump's arch-rival, Ron DeSantis, in 2024. So your main or your chief enemy, nemesis.
So they both belong to the Republican Party, but at the end of the day, when it comes to who's going to run for president, they can only have one candidate from that party, right?
Right, and they'll go through the primary season, I believe, next year to determine who will be that candidate for the Republican Party.
도널드 트럼프 전 대통령도 대선 출마 의사를 표명했고요. 론 데산티스는 아직은 아니지만 만약에 그렇게 하게 된다면 일론 머스크는 공화당의 여러 후보 중에서 트럼프 전 대통령 말고 론 데산티스, 플로리다 거버너를 지지하겠다.
I have another example, Sue. Do you follow American football?
Do I look like I follow
No,
American
you don't, but
football?
I asked. So my team, the University of Michigan Wolverines, beat their arch rival, the Ohio State Buckeyes on Saturday. So I
Did
wanted
they?
to point that out
Oh,
today.
congratulations.
I'm very happy. It was a happy weekend for me.
Yeah, I guess you can use the word arch rival or arch enemy in sports, and you probably hear it a lot, right?
Definitely. And we see that, of course, whenever Korea plays Japan
Yes.
in any sport.
That's right.
Of course, there are arch rivals.
Yes. 스포츠에서 이렇게 어떻게 보면은 정말 큰 라이벌 상대일 때 arch rival이라는 표현 쓸 수 있습니다. The next expression is endangered.
Yeah, the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora, or CITES. It's the name of this organization, but if something is endangered, that means it's at risk of disappearing or becoming extinct.
endangered라는 것 자체는 위험한 상황에 처했다이지만요. endangered species, 그러면 멸종 위기종입니다.
That means it's almost extinct.
Right,
and
right.
that word extinct, E-X-T-I-N-C-T, kind of hard to pronounce sometimes.
Yeah.
Extinct.
Extinct. And the list this time around includes, I think you said, sharks and birds and frogs.
Translucent frogs.
Translucent frogs, there you go. The last expression was to overcome something.
Right. So to overcome would be to go through some sort of ordeal to turn out victorious. So records related to overcoming the oil spill in Taean in 2007. So with the hard work of volunteers like you, Sue, the country was able to overcome, and the environment there has been restored.
Sometimes I'm inspired by people who do things that they're afraid of, deliberately to overcome their fears. So if someone's afraid of heights, as you said, they'll go and try and learn how to fly a plane. Or if someone is afraid of, deep water diving or whatever, they'll go and swim with the sharks. And I'm always inspired by people like that.
And usually this comes in an unfortunate incident. You try to look at it optimistically, but it is hard to overcome your fears. Claustrophobia, for example, 폐쇄공포증. To overcome that would be very difficult as well, I'm sure.
네, 여러 가지 공포증을 극복하기 위해서 노력하시는 분들 보면 참 대단하다 하는 생각이 드는데요. Overcome your fears도 쓸 수 있고 여기서는 overcome the Taean oil spill이라는 표현이 나왔습니다. 자, 이렇게 오늘 헤드라인에서 나온 표현들 리뷰해봤고요. 모닝 헤드라인 익스프레션스는 오디오 어학당과 유튜브에서 무료로 다시 듣기 하실 수 있습니다. 자, 그러면 11월 29일 화요일 모닝 헤드라인스 뉴스캐스터 레이와 함께 시작합니다.
The Korean national team lost 3-2 to Ghana on Monday in their second Group H match of the FIFA World Cup in Qatar.
한국 대표팀은 어제 카타르에서 열린 가나와의 2022 카타르 월드컵 조별리그 H조 2차전에서 2대3으로 아쉽게 패했습니다.
Financial regulators in Korea are mulling over changes to the dividend-paying process so that investors know the amount of dividends they would receive before purchasing stocks.
금융당국은 주식시장 상장사의 배당금 규모를 먼저 확인한 뒤 투자 여부를 결정하는 방식으로 배당 제도를 개편한다고 밝혔습니다.
Protests have erupted in China in an unprecedented show of dissent against Chinese President Xi Jinping's zero-COVID strategy, with some protesters daring to openly call for his removal.
중국에서 제로 코로나 정책에 반대하는 시위가 확산하고 있으며 일부 시위대는 시진핑 중국 국가주석의 퇴진까지 요구하고 있다고 외신이 전했습니다.
U.S. Republican Mike Turner has said there is no need to pass hefty Democrat bills to help Ukraine, adding that the incoming Republican majority in the House will spend less money to fund Kyiv's war against Russia.
미국 공화당 마이크 터너 하원 의원은 우크라이나 지원을 위한 민주당의 거대한 예산을 통과시킬 필요가 없다며 앞으로 공화당이 과반을 차지한 하원에서는 우크라이나 지원을 위한 예산을 줄일 것이라고 말했습니다.
The niece of Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, Farida Moradkhani, has been arrested after calling on foreign governments to cut all ties with the Iranian government.
이란의 최고 지도자 알리 하메네이의 조카 파리데 모라드하니가 외국 정부들의 이란과의 관계 단절을 촉구한 영상을 게재한 후 체포됐습니다.
Legendary singer-songwriter Bob Dylan has issued a public statement to apologize for his error in judgment amid controversy over selling machine-signed art and books that had been advertised as special hand-signed editions.
전설적인 싱어송라이터 밥 딜런이 최근 발간한 에세이집 한정판에 자필이 아닌 기계를 사용해 서명한 것을 시인하며 공개적으로 사과했습니다. And those have been today's morning headlines.
Morning headline expressions.
From the headlines today, let's have a look at our key expressions. In sports, when you say you lost to another team, that is the expression you use, basically. Lose to a.
Yeah, lose to or beat. So you would say, I think we will win. I think we will lose. Right? Or we are going to win. I hope we're going to win.
I hope we're going to win. I hope we're going to beat Portugal.
And then after the game, then you would say you either beat that team or you lost to that team, and then you say the score. So in English, you always say the bigger number first.
That's really interesting as well. 네, 영어로는요. 패했을 때는 lose to, 그리고 이겼을 때는 beat. 그렇습니다. 그리고 그 점수는요. 큰 숫자부터 나온다는 거. 영어식으로는요. Whether you're talking about losing or beating and your opponent, you still say the larger number first.
Right. So
interesting.
So Korea lost 3-2 to Ghana. Ghana beat Korea 3-2.
Aha. Korea lost 3-2 점수를 먼저 말하고요. 그 다음에 to Ghana 이렇게 표현을 하면 되겠네요. The second one was to mull over something.
Right, I'm mulling over how to even explain this word.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Yeah, you think for a long time. I thought about it last night. I guess I mulled it over a little bit. So when you mull something over, it's usually a fairly big decision, right? You're going to spend a lot of money. You're going to make a big change.
Yep.
In this case, you can see this is a huge change that Korean financial regulators are considering. So you got to think about it for a long time. You really got to mull it over to make sure you get it right.
Mull something over. 곰곰이 생각하는 겁니다. In this case, of course, financial regulators have submitted a proposal and they're hoping it will be set in concrete before the end of the year. So when we say they're mulling over changes, it's more than that, really. They're not just thinking about it. They have submitted a proposal
Exactly.
for this.
And they've been thinking about it for a
They
long
have.
time, obviously, right?
Yes, indeed. Now, the next expression was removal.
Removal can have a few different meanings, right? So like in our studio here, there's a huge piano over there, right? So if we were like, oh, the removal of the piano, it would be taken out of the studio. I don't know how, but it would happen.
It would happen, yeah.
In this case, we
It
were
has
talking...
wheels.
Oh, it does? Okay.
Yes.
Shows what I know about pianos. So anyways, in this story we were talking about, we were talking about the protests in China and how some very daring protesters
It's
were
not
openly
easy to do
calling
this.
for the removal of Xi Jinping.
Yep.
If we talk about the removal of someone from their job, it means they lose their job.
물건을 remove 하면은 이제 옮기는 거죠. 없애는 거. 그렇지만 사람에 대해서 remove를 썼을 때는 퇴진 아니면 해고 이런 의미가 될 수 있습니다. In China, some protesters have been calling for the removal of their leader, the president.
And usually if you talk about, like in this case, a president's removal, the president doesn't want to quit,
No.
right? They don't want to resign, so it would mean they would be forcibly removed from office by other authorities.
그렇죠. 퇴진을 요구하고 있다. Some people are openly calling for the removal of Xi. Now, the next expression was the incoming Republican majority.
Right, so they are not in the job yet, but we know they will have that job very, very soon. So it's incoming.
Yeah, and you see this a lot with president
Sure.
or incoming government.
Yeah, incoming flights.
Incoming flight. Oh, yeah,
You
that's
might
true
see
as well,
that
yeah.
at the airport.
착륙하는 이제 비행기에 관해서도 incoming flight라고 얘기를 할 수도 있고요. 이제 뭐 정부 아니면은 대통령이 곧 임기를 시작한다라고 할 때도 incoming, 오고 있다라는 뜻이에요. 그래서 Republican majority in the House라는 것은 미국 하원에서 이제 공화당이 과반을 차지한 그런 시스템으로 곧 시작이 된다 이런 느낌으로 보시면 되겠습니다. Call on someone.
Call on someone. It's used in this case, like calling on foreign governments or someone calls on the police to do something, whatever. It's when you publicly say what someone should do.
Yeah. To call on은 촉구한다라는 뜻인데요. 누구에게? To call on someone to do something. 이런 형태로 많이 씁니다. Apparently, the niece of the leader of Iran called on foreign governments to cut ties with the Iranian government.
Yeah, she sure did. Very publicly. It's on YouTube. I found it, so it's there.
And then in the final headline, we saw this expression, an error in judgment.
An error in judgment. So that's a phrase, right? You put it all together. It means you've made a mistake. And when you say, like, I made an error in judgment, you are sort of repenting for your mistake. You're admitting that it was a mistake. And it's usually one of those ones, if you say this phrase, you kind of look back on it and be like, why did I do that? Like, I know I shouldn't have done that. That was just a dumb mistake I made. I wouldn't do it again.
그래요. 판단 미스였습니다. 이런 식으로 표현하기도 하죠. 그래서 판단 착오라는 뜻으로 that was an error in judgment라고 합니다. 자, 이렇게 오늘 헤드라인에서 나온 표현들 리뷰해봤고요. 모닝 헤드라인 익스프레션스는 오디오 어학당과 유튜브에서 무료로 다시 듣기 하실 수 있습니다. 자, 그러면 11월의 마지막 날 수요일 모닝 헤드라인스 뉴스캐스터 레이와 함께 시작합니다.
Unionized workers at Seoul Metro have gone on strike after negotiations with the operator of the Seoul subway system failed to resolve disputes.
서울 지하철을 운영하는 서울교통공사 노동조합이 전날 임금 단체 협상 결렬에 따라 오늘 아침부터 파업에 돌입했습니다.
Fighting in East Ukraine has descended into trench warfare reminiscent of the First World War, according to foreign media reports, as neither Russian nor Ukrainian forces have made a significant breakthrough.
네, 우크라이나와 러시아가 동부전선에서 서로 진격하지 못한 채 제1차 세계대전에서나 목격할 만한 참호전이 벌어지고 있다고 외신이 전했습니다.
Amid escalating protests across China over the government's zero COVID policy, the Biden administration is responding cautiously, reflecting Washington's desire to stabilize a vital but increasingly adversarial relationship with Beijing.
중국의 제로 코로나 정책을 반대하는 시위가 중국 전역에서 고조되고 있는 가운데 바이든 행정부는 조심스럽게 추이를 주시하면서 중국과의 적대 관계 속에서도 안정적인 관계를 원하는 모습을 보이고 있습니다.
The Italian government, led by far-right Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, is contradicting current global trends and pushing ahead with a policy to support the use of cash instead of credit cards.
극우 성향의 조지아 멜로니 총리가 이끄는 이탈리아 정부가 세계적인 흐름을 거스르고 신용카드 대신 현금 사용을 지원하는 정책을 추진하고 있습니다.
Korea's qualification hopes for the FIFA World Cup 2022 round of 16 are in jeopardy, as the national team will require more than a victory from its upcoming match against Portugal.
한국의 월드컵 16강 진출이 쉽지 않아 보입니다. 포르투갈전에서 승리하는 것 이상의 경우의 수까지 따져야 하는 상황입니다.
Morning Headline Expressions.
자, 다음으로 Morning Headline Expressions 가볼게요. Well, let's look at our first expression. It was dispute.
A dispute. That's when you're not getting along with somebody. You're having a big disagreement. And usually when there's a dispute, you're trying to resolve it. You're trying to find a way. You're trying to find a compromise. Not always easy.
분쟁이란 뜻이죠. 이거는 친구 간에도 dispute가 있을 수 있고 여기서처럼 이제 뭐 노사 간에 dispute가 있을 수도 있습니다.
You can also use it as a verb too. You can dispute something. So say you've been charged extra on your phone bill or at the hotel or something like that. You might call up customer service or you might go to the desk at the hotel and dispute the charges.
이의를 제기하다라는 동사로도 쓸 수 있군요. dispute something 이렇게요. 자, 두 번째 헤드라인에서는 breakthrough가 있었습니다.
So we were talking about how neither Russian or Ukrainian forces have made a significant breakthrough, made some big progress or some big advancement.
Exactly. 돌파구의 의미죠. Making progress is making a breakthrough, but in this case, when it comes to the war in Ukraine, no breakthrough.
No, and breakthrough is usually quite big,
Yeah.
right? It's like it changes something, right? So if one side made a breakthrough, it could really change the course of the war.
Exactly, but that's not happening right now. They do
No,
want
it's a
it to-
stalemate, basically,
It
is what
is.
it's looking like
Yeah.
now.
I mean, I'm sure both sides want a breakthrough, but
Well,
it's
yeah.
just not happening.
No, it's not that easy.
No, of
It's like
course.
same thing we talked about medical research, right? Like how, researchers do tons of work, but finding breakthroughs are rare.
Exactly. Now let's look at this next term, to cautiously do something.
Well, I'll just cautiously try and explain what this word means. So
굉장히 조심스럽게 설명하시네요.
I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to make any problems. So I can be very, very careful. When you do something cautiously, you are very, very careful.
Exactly. You could maybe say, take caution.
You'll even see, like in Western countries, you'll see caution signs
Caution.
on street signs, right? There'll be stuff like caution, road slippery when wet, or in Canada, they'll say caution. You'll see pictures of deer because deer can run across the road.
제주도에도 가끔 그런 사인 있더라고요. 이렇게 뭐 노루 같은 게 사인에 있고 그다음에 뭐 주의 막 이렇게 써 있었던 것 같은데 그런 주의에 해당되는 단어가 영어로는 caution이에요. 그래서 뭐 바닥이 미끄럽다든지 아니면은 뭐 어떤 야생동물이 지나간다든지 이럴 때 영어로 caution 이렇게 쓰는데
Be careful.
Be careful. 조심해라 이거죠. 그래서 cautiously라는 것은 이제 조심스럽게 뭐뭐하다이고요. To push ahead.
Push ahead, keep doing something, even though it's a little bit difficult, right? Think about pushing someone or pushing a heavy door open.
Yeah.
It's not that easy, but you can do it, and that's what it means to push ahead with something.
네, 우리말이랑 굉장히 비슷합니다. 밀고 나가는 거예요. 추진하다. And finally, qualification.
In this case, we were talking about Korea's hopes of qualifying for the next round.
Yeah.
So it means making the cut. You achieve the requirement for something to advance.
Is this the qualifying round? Is that what they call it? Or is that the next round? Or is that a completely
No,
different
that already
round?
happened.
Oh.
You have to qualify to get into the World Cup.
see
and then
how
you
much
get,
I know about sports?
Oh, I know. Yeah, I've seen it before.
아, 그렇군요. 진출이라는 의미가 있어요. 스포츠에서 qualify라는 것은 그래서 다음 단계 16강으로 진출하기 위해서 이제 여러 가지 경우의 수를 따져봐야 된다.
But you can
이거였습니다.
qualify for each successive round.
All right. Well, thank you for helping me out with that. I never qualify to be a good sports commentator. 자, 이렇게 해서 오늘 헤드라인에 나온 표현들 리뷰해봤습니다. 모닝 헤드라인 익스프레션즈는 오디오 어학당과 유튜브에서 무료로 다시 듣기 하실 수 있습니다. 12월 첫날 목요일 모닝 헤드라인즈 뉴스캐스터 레이와 함께 시작합니다.
Korea's industrial output fell by the most in 30 months in October, according to data from Statistics Korea, with retail sales also losing ground amid the prolonged economic uncertainties.
통계청이 발표한 자료에 따르면 지난달 국내 전산업 생산이 2020년 4월 이후 30개월 만에 최대폭으로 감소했습니다. 불확실한 경기 흐름이 지속되면서 소매 판매 역시 주춤한 것으로 나타났습니다.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has said Washington supports the right of people everywhere to peacefully protest, including in China, during a press conference in Romania.
토니 블링컨 미 국무장관은 루마니아에서 가진 기자회견 자리에서 미국은 세계 어느 나라든 평화롭게 시위할 시민들의 권리를 지지한다며 여기에는 중국도 포함된다고 언급했습니다.
Global bonds are signaling a recession, according to an analysis by Bloomberg, with a gauge measuring the worldwide yield curve inverting for the first time in at least 2 decades.
최소 20년 사이 처음으로 각국 국채 현황에서 장단기 금리 역전 현상이 공통적으로 관측되는 가운데 이는 경기 침체의 전조 현상에 해당한다고 블룸버그가 분석했습니다.
Germany has signed a deal with Qatar to receive 2 million tons of LNG annually from 2026 through 2 deals that cover at least a 15-year period.
독일은 카타르와 2건의 계약을 체결해 오는 2026년부터 최소 15년 동안 연간 200만 톤의 액화천연가스를 공급받기로 했습니다.
A team of researchers in Canada have reportedly discovered 2 new minerals after analyzing a slice of a 15-ton meteorite that landed in Somalia and was unearthed in 2020.
2년 전 소말리아에서 발굴된 무게 15톤의 거대한 운석을 캐나다의 한 연구팀이 분석한 결과 지금까지 지구상에서 확인된 적이 없는 광물 2종을 발견한 것이라고 알려졌습니다. And those are today's morning headlines.
Morning headline expressions.
From the headlines today, let's look at the key expressions. Something prolonged means it's been going on for a very long time.
Going on for a long time and expected to continue.
Yeah,
right? So a lot of times we'll talk, someone might have a prolonged illness, for example.
A prolonged illness, a prolonged economic
Slump,
uncertainty,
yeah.
or a slump. Something prolonged means it has been going on for a long time. 단어 안에 long이 들어있죠? 그래서 prolonged는 계속되는, 지속되는 이런 의미라고 보시면 되겠고요. What about the right to do something?
If you have the right to do something, you're entitled to do it. And sometimes you're entitled to do things on a moral basis,
Yeah.
meaning it's the right thing to do. Or a lot of times, you know, everywhere we have some legal rights, right? So legal rights can be different in different countries. But if you have a right to do something, like the right to free speech, for example, means you're legally entitled to do that thing.
The right to do something 해서 이렇게 verb가 나올 수도 있고요. 아니면 the right to 하고 noun이 나올 수도 있어요. 그래서 아까 레이가 말한 것처럼 the right to free speech. 이거는 동사는 아닌데 이게 자유롭게 발언을 할 수 있는 그런 권리 이런 말이 되겠죠. 그다음에 the right to peacefully protest. 이때는 이제 동사가 나왔는데 평화롭게 시위할 수 있는 권리. So the right to do something, 뭐뭐 할 수 있는 권리, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We all have the right to go to school, for example. Well, we should. Some people don't in the world, but we all have the right to be educated or the right to speak our minds, I think.
Yeah,
No?
yeah, I think in some places,
in general.
I don't know if I would speak my mind in China, but or North Korea, some places, but
We should have the right.
Yes,
We should.
yeah.
Okay. Let's go on to the next one. If something signals something,
Shows you what's going to happen. Think the easiest way to think about it is an indicator in your car. That's people, turn on your signal, right? Your turn signal. That's another word for an indicator.
아, 그렇군요. 그 깜빡이를 우리 자동차에서 turn signal이라고도 하고요. indicator라고도 합니다. 그래서 signal이라는 동사, indicate라는 동사 다 뉴스에서 많이 나오는 표현들인데요. 자동차 깜빡이 생각하시면 될 것 같아요. 뭔가를 알려준다, 보여준다 이런 느낌으로 보시면 되고요. Global bonds are signaling a recession. Well, to be more precise, we're looking at a long sentence before that. But something is signaling a recession.
Yes,
Yeah.
an inverted yield curve. It's putting on the indicator light and saying, hey, we might be turning over to a recession pretty soon.
그렇죠. 경기 침체가 올 수도 있다. 이런 것을 보여주고 있는 여러 가지 사인들이 있다. And then the next expression was to cover something.
So there's different ways you can use this word.
Yeah.
So we were talking about these deals between Qatar and Germany, and it covers a 15-year period, meaning the deal is going to last for 15 years. But You could use cover in a few different ways, right?
Sure.
So we cover the news. We
do.
call it the news coverage in school. And when you're studying, your teacher might say, okay, today we're going to cover chapter 6, meaning we're going to study. We're going to do chapter 6.
Exactly. Or you might just want to cover your head if it rains with your hands
Yeah.
or an umbrella or
Take
whatever you
cover.
have. Take cover if you're in danger. So cover is used in so many different ways.
Yeah, if a musician sings a song that another musician wrote, then it's called a cover.
That's right. And when it comes to makeup, you might have a spot. You might want to cover up that
Yeah,
spot.
isn't it? It's called cover up, isn't it? I think it is.
Yeah, I think so.
I think
yeah,
they call
yeah.
it cover up.
Yeah. Okay, so many different many different definitions.
I think we covered them all.
cover라는 게 이제 다루다의 의미가 있을 수 있고요. 그래서 우리가 2부를 news coverage라고 하는데 뉴스에서 어떤 주제나 스토리를 다룬다라는 의미로 정말 많이 쓰는 그런 표현이에요. 그런 의미도 있고 아니면 가리다 이런 의미도 있잖아요. 비가 올 때 I'm just gonna cover my head with my hands or with whatever I have to stop my hair from getting wet. 이렇게 표현할 수도 있고 아니면은 이 경우에 이제 기간이 나왔으니까요. 15년이라는 기간을 걸친 그런 계약이 체결이 됐다. So when it comes to time, it means that it's going to happen for that period of
For
time.
that period of time, right.
Exactly. The last expression was unearth.
To unearth means to dig up or discover. So we were talking about a meteorite that actually was buried in the ground and they needed to dig it up. But you can also use this figuratively as well. If some information, for example, was hidden or kept secret
Yeah.
and then someone exposed it, they unearthed the information or unearthed the secrets.
비밀을 이렇게 파내는 것처럼 뭔가 알아냈을 때 그때도 the secret was unearthed 이렇게 말할 수도 있지만 원래 unearth라는 것 자체는 땅에서 뭔가 발굴해내는 것, 파내는 것을 말합니다. Well, apparently a meteorite was unearthed in 2020 and now they know that the minerals are
new.
those that they've never seen before on
They're
Earth.
finding new minerals.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, those were our key expressions. 오늘 이렇게 헤드라인에 나온 표현들 리뷰해봤고요. 모닝 헤드라인 expressions는 오디오 어학당과 유튜브에서 무료로 다시 듣기 하실 수 있습니다. 자, 그러면 12월의 둘째 날 금요일 모닝 헤드라인스 뉴스캐스터 폴과 함께 시작합니다.
Busan and Daegu have joined the capital region in enforcing the fine dust management system, an initiative that restricts the operation of vehicles with Class 5 emissions until the end of March next year.
미세먼지 계절관리제 기간인 내년 3월 말까지 수도권에 이어 부산과 대구에서도 배출가스 5등급 차량의 운행이 제한됩니다.
China's former leader Jiang Zemin, who came to power after the Tiananmen Square protests and presided over a time when China opened up on a vast scale and saw high-speed growth, has died at 96.
장쩌민 전 중국 국가주석이 96세의 나이로 타계했습니다. 티안안men 사태 이후 집권한 그는 중국의 대규모 개방 및 고속 성장 시기를 주재한 인물입니다.
US Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell has confirmed that smaller interest rate increases are likely ahead, but cautioned that monetary policy is likely to stay restrictive for some time.
제롬 파월 미 연방준비제도 의장이 향후 금리 인상폭 축소 가능성을 확인하면서도 금융정책 전반은 한동안 긴축 기조가 유지될 것이라고 경고했습니다.
French President Emmanuel Macron has slammed US subsidies that are riling European leaders, saying the Inflation Reduction Act is super aggressive for European businesses.
이마뉴엘 마크롱 프랑스 대통령은 인플레이션 감축법이 유럽 기업에 대단히 공격적이라고 표현하면서 유럽 지도자들의 원성을 산 미국의 보조금 정책을 강하게 비판했습니다.
Korea's traditional mask dance, Talchum, has been inscribed on UNESCO's Intangible Cultural Heritage list, making it the 22nd South Korean entry on the list.
우리나라 전통 탈춤이 유네스코 인류 무형문화 유산에 등재됐습니다. 이로써 한국의 인류 무형문화유산은 22건이 됐습니다. And those are our headlines today.
Morning headline expressions.
Let's have a look at today's expressions from the headlines. 자, restrict라는 표현부터 보겠습니다.
Yes, if we restrict something, we limit it, meaning we're not allowing a certain amount of it. In this case, we're talking about cars that are class 5 emission vehicles, or in my case, it may be about donuts. My wife limits me to 2 donuts a week, and that's it.
네, restrict는 제한하다고요. The noun form would be restriction. 그렇죠? 명사 형태로는 그렇게 씁니다. 제한. 자, 그 다음으로는 to preside over something. over랑 같이 알아두셔야 되죠.
Yes, yes. We're presiding over a country. We're presiding over a meeting.
Yeah.
If we're presiding over something, it means we are controlling it. We are leading it. We are ruling it. So it could be a prime minister or a president. It could be the boss or the head of something. Or it could just be the team leader is presiding over the team's meeting.
네, 뭔가 이제 주재하다의 느낌입니다. 그래서 보통 리더한테 이런 말을 많이 쓰죠. Preside over a meeting, a country, or whatever it is that you're presiding over. We're talking about Jiang Zemin in this story, of course. He presided over China. And that was a time when it saw a lot of growth and opened up to the world. But he has passed away. 자, 다음 헤드라인에서는요. For some time입니다.
For a while. We don't know how long, whether it'll be weeks or months. Probably not years, but certainly for some time is an unspecified period of time.
Yeah.
It's not going to be just a day or two. It's going to be longer than that.
It looks like interest rates in America will go up continually for some time.
Exactly, yes. So the predictions are that it's not going to be into 2024, but certainly through into 2023, there will be these restrictions, but we don't know exactly when they'll stop.
한동안은 계속 미국에서 금리 인상할 것으로 이렇게 보여진다는 거예요. 그래서 for some 띄고 time. 근데 sometime을 붙여서 쓰면은요. 조만간의 느낌입니다. 우리 조만간 밥 먹자. Let's catch up and have lunch sometime. 그럴 때는 sometime 띄는 게 아니고요. 붙이는 겁니다. sometime. 이렇게. 그 다음에 또 sometimes는 또 다른 의미의 뭐 가끔 이런 의미가 되겠죠. 그걸 같이 알아두시면 좋고요. 다음으로 riled.
To be angry, to be annoyed, to be irritated. Yeah, the World Cup is the perfect example because there can only be one winner.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a lot of losers, which means a lot of fans get riled or get riled up during the course of the tournament because, well, their team can't win. Their team can't be number one.
그래요. 그래서 rile이라는 것은 굉장히 좀 짜증나게 만들다 이런 의미가 있을 수 있는데요. 여기서는 유럽의 지도자들의 원성을 산 그 IRA 인플레이션 감축법에 대한 얘기였습니다. 마크롱 프랑스 대통령이 이거 너무 공격적이다 이런 표현을 썼대요. 자, 그리고 마지막 표현인데요. To be inscribed.
It's a fancy way of saying to be written, but we use it for UNESCO's lists or any kind of fancy list something gets inscribed on, meaning we add it, we put it on, it becomes part of the list.
Be inscribed on the list. 어떤 목록에 등재되다라는 뜻입니다. 이렇게 오늘 헤드라인에 나온 표현들 살펴봤고요. 모닝 헤드라인 익스프레션스는 오디오 어학당과 유튜브에서 무료로 다시 듣기 하실 수 있습니다.